Leviticus Chapter 2 focuses on the regulations for grain offerings, also known as cereal offerings or meal offerings, which were presented to God as acts of worship. The chapter begins by describing the various types of grain offerings that could be presented to the Lord. These offerings consisted of fine flour, oil, and frankincense. The flour was typically made from wheat, but barley was also acceptable. The first type of grain offering mentioned is the unleavened cakes. These were prepared by mixing fine flour, oil, and frankincense together and then baking them in an oven. The cakes were to be presented to the Lord as an offering. The second type of grain offering is the unleavened wafers. These were made by taking the fine flour, oil, and frankincense and cooking them on a griddle or in a pan. The wafer was then broken into pieces and offered as a grain offering. The third type of grain offering is the firstfruits. This offering was made by taking a handful of the newly harvested grain, roasting it with fire, and then presenting it to the Lord. This offering was a way of acknowledging God's provision and expressing gratitude. The regulations for the grain offerings included specific instructions on how the offerings were to be prepared and presented. The offerings were to be seasoned with salt, but no leaven or honey was to be used. Additionally, any offering that included leaven or honey was not to be burned on the altar but could be given as a gift to the priests. The chapter also emphasizes that the grain offerings were to be presented with a spirit of generosity and gratitude. It was a voluntary act of worship, expressing devotion and thanksgiving to God. In summary, Leviticus Chapter 2 outlines the regulations for grain offerings, which consisted of fine flour, oil, and frankincense. The offerings could be presented as unleavened cakes, unleavened wafers, or as a handful of firstfruits. The chapter emphasizes the importance of presenting these offerings with a grateful and generous heart as acts of worship. Let's now read Leviticus chapter 2. And when any will offer a meat offering unto the Lord, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil upon it, and put frankincense thereon. And he shall bring it to Aaron's sons the priests, and he shall take thereout his handful of the flour thereof, and of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense thereof, and the priest shall burn the memorial of it upon the altar, to be an offering made by fire, of a sweet savor unto the Lord. And the remnant of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is a thing most holy of the offerings of the Lord made by fire. And if thou bring an oblation of a meat offering baken in the oven, it shall be unleavened cakes of fine flour mingled with oil, or unleavened wafers anointed with oil. And if thy oblation be a meat offering baken in a pan, it shall be of fine flour unleavened, mingled with oil. Thou shalt part it in pieces, and pour oil thereon. It is a meat offering. And if thy oblation be a meat offering baken in the frying pan, it shall be made of fine flour with oil. And thou shalt bring the meat offering that is made of these things unto the Lord, and when it is presented unto the priest, he shall bring it unto the altar. And the priest shall take from the meat offering a memorial thereof, and shall burn it upon the altar. It is an offering made by fire, of a sweet savor unto the Lord. And that which is left of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is a thing most holy of the offerings of the Lord made by fire. No meat offering, which ye shall bring unto the Lord, shall be made with leaven, for ye shall burn no leaven, nor any honey, in any offering of the Lord made by fire. As for the oblation of the firstfruits, ye shall offer them unto the Lord, but they shall not be burnt on the altar for a sweet savor. And every oblation of thy meat offering shalt thou season with salt, neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt. And if thou offer a meat offering of thy firstfruits unto the Lord, thou shalt offer for the meat offering of thy firstfruits green ears of corn dried by the fire, even corn beaten out of full ears. And thou shalt put oil upon it, and lay frankincense thereon. It is a meat offering. And the priest shall burn the memorial of it, part of the beaten corn thereof, and part of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense thereof. It is an offering made by fire unto the Lord. This ends our reading of Leviticus chapter 2.